Hello again, I'm Sarah. This is Hardcover Hearts, and I'm back with a week of reading wrap up where I talk about the books that I read and what I'm currently reading. I read some great books, so let's just jump right in. The first one I want to talk about is the third in a series. Hopefully there's going to be more, but I'm not so sure based on what I read at the end or heard at the end of this book. I did do the audio version of this. The book that I'm talking about is Marble Hall Murders, and this is by Anthony Horowitz. This is the Susan Ryland series. He's done a ton of different series in his career, and this is the most recent. He has set all of these books in the world of publishing, and so the kind of conceit or concept that he's put together for these is that we have an editor, Susan Ryland. She works at a publishing company, and she has been working with this one author for all of these years. And he's a mystery writer. And so she's editing his work at the same time solving a mystery in current day where there are clues about the murder in the books that she's editing. It sounds very, very complicated. And I will say, in as much as I liked 1 and 2, sometimes it felt like overly complicated, like just a lot of details to remember. I think one of the challenges with this type of setup is that you almost have 2 sets of characters you have to keep in mind, because you have the characters in the books and then who they correspond to in the mystery, which is so much of what happens in this. I think he does a very good job at that, but in this one, it was effortless. It felt much, much better, much easier to understand how he was constructing that. And I think there was more time given and more space to the story. I mentioned the narration of this. It's done by Leslie Manville, who is the main actress who plays Susan Ryland, and then also a gentleman named Tim McMullen. And I thought that they did a great job just really bringing this book to life and making it feel so professional, so polished. So this story, we opened with Susan, and this Susan cannot catch a break. She's really been going through it. She's an older woman. She should be nearing retirement, but instead she's returned from Crete. She needs a job desperately. She's kind of broken. She's broken emotionally because of a love affair gone wrong. And she's also broken financially. She is actually broke. So she gets a contract position with her former publishing company. And Susan has been renowned as this incredible editor that works with really difficult authors. Nice premise, right? And she has done this Atticus Pund series with this previous author who has since passed away. She's contacted by the publisher to ask if she would take on this very, very important job. And that is to see this next installment into publication. And it's really tricky because the author is dead. He died in one of the earlier episodes. And they brought in this new young guy. He's kind of untested. He's, this debauch, young, obnoxious, very, very rich grandson of a very beloved childhood author, child book author. And so he is untested. He's really cocky, really arrogant, and kind of needs a nanny, to be honest. He presents a first set of a draft up to a certain point, and she sees some potential in it. And she's actually like, okay, I see where this is going. She needs the money. She wants to leverage this into a more permanent role at her previous company. So she's, really willing to make this work. Though she's loath to work with this guy. She does not like him at all. And as she's reviewing these pages and she gets invited to a party that's hosted by the family. And she starts talking with members of Eliot, the young debauched author, his family, only to realize that, wait a minute, he is drawing very strongly from his family in this book. And it feels like Eliot has an axe to grind and that he's using this book as a means to make that happen. So she is in the horrible position of having to hold him accountable to what he needs to do for publication time. And he seems to be someone who's bucking any kind of authority over him in any way, shape, or form. But also try to figure out, like, wait a minute, is this dangerous waters for them to be publishing what could be a accusation of murder? I will stop there. It was wicked fun, very, very well done, well executed. Now, at the very end, you hear Anthony Horowitz come in, and he says that he wasn't going to do another version of the Susan Ryland series, but Leslie Manville actually, I guess, suggested it to him and said she wanted to do another. And so he kind of wrote this with her in mind and thinking of her. So hopefully she convinces him to do more, because I really like this series. I love the publishing world, and Susan Ryland's a great older woman character that I enjoy. So yeah, that was great. And then moving on, speaking of great, this is my second read of this book. And this book is one that made me choose this author for an author spotlight series that I do with a group of people. It's an opt-in group. We are currently reading Molly Keane and her collective works. We're reading about 4 in publication order, and we've gotten to Good Behaviour. This is the 3rd that we're reading. I'm going to say that I think Good Behaviour from Molly Keane is maybe a masterpiece. That might be selling it a little too strongly, which I don't want to do. I don't want to overhype it. But this was up for the Booker. I can't remember if it won or not. I'll put it below if it did. But this is phenomenal. It's a phenomenal piece of writing, and she's a phenomenal writer. Somebody had mentioned in our group this explanation and said it was a Mobius strip of a book. And it's 100% accurate. This, from a craft perspective, as well as a stylistic perspective, and deep character building, this is a divine book to read. And I will say, when I first picked it up, I mean, because of the name Good Behaviour, I thought this was going to be like a Barbara Pym soft comedy of manners kind of read. I knew nothing about how dark Molly Keane can go and how she burrows into the psyche. And yeah, she goes there. This is a very gothic tale. We follow Arun, and we follow her through her life. And she is the daughter, it's her and her brother, and her mother and father. And they are landed gentry in Ireland. They live in this crumbling estate, Gothic estate, Temple Alice, I think it's called. Yeah. And everything is falling and collapsing around them. They're poor, but refuse to acknowledge it and talk about it. Her mother is this distant wannabe artist who didn't really want to have children, did it because she had to, but then just kind of shoos everyone else away, and specifically the kids, and just wants to focus on the interests that she has. Her husband is a philanderer, and he just kind of spreads his attention everywhere. And the mother just doesn't want to know, and whatever he wants to do, he wants to do. So very almost bohemian. Her brother is her only person that she can relate to, and she just adores and looks up to him, as well as her father. She really does care about her father, but she doesn't get any attention, love, or focus from anyone in this family. She did have a lovely, lovely house nurse, teacher, tutor, governess, and the story connects two families that were friends through this tutor, this governess. Basically, the one kind, gentle, encouraging soul that affected both families. And we see what happens to Arun as she grows up, lacking in that kind of love, attention, and affection, to disastrous consequences. This is a story of decay, of secrets, but it's written with such a fantastic character that you don't know how is she naive? Does she know what's really happening? Where is it going to go? And it goes to shocking places. I think it's exceptional. I wish more people read this book, and I would love to know if you read this book and what your thoughts were. And one last thing I'll say, this was my second read of this, and it was just as good and maybe even a little better because I knew what was going to happen. So I got to see the craft behind how she got us to those conclusions and how the story loops itself back in, which was just divine. So if you love craft and good storytelling, this might be for you. Next, I have a book that I was reading for Women in Translation Month, didn't get around to it from my pile of possibilities, had to bring it into this month, but I'm glad I read it. This is a quirky little odd book. This is Amiko, Do You Copy by Natsuko Imamura. And she was the author of The Woman with the Purple Skirt. And this is translated by Hitomi Yoshio. Cute little cover here. And this is by Pushkin Press. Yeah, did this. This also is kind of dark. Dark but tender and unsentimental. This is the story of Amiko. Amiko, we put together as the reader, is probably neurodivergent. She's a little different. She is the youngest of a family, is her older brother and her mother and father. They live in Tokyo, or is it Tokyo or just Japan? I don't think it's defined, but they live in Japan. And she, is always getting in trouble because she's doing the wrong things at school. She's obsessed with this boy that's in her class, and she likes him because he's friends with her brother. And so he spends time with them and they walk to and from school together. Now he's only being nice to her because he was told that he has to be nice to her. And she doesn't really understand that. She really thinks that she is, that they have like this friendship, but she's very, very bad at social cues and understanding social signals. There's a tragedy that hits the family and it throws everyone into chaos. And the few stable things that she could come to understand all of a sudden get thrown up into the air. And her mother goes through this horrible feelings of depression. Her brother starts acting out and the father is just in a tailspin. This has tremendous effects upon her. This book is very sparse. It's very sparsely written. Despite all of these things that are happening, it's very unsentimental. And it reminds me, it's so unsentimental. It reminds me a little bit of one of my favorite books. This is The Summer Book by Tove Jansson. And this is translated by not by Catherine Davis, let me see. I always want to get the translators correct, by Thomas Teal. And just like in the Summer book, there's the relationships between the characters and how childhood is portrayed is very, very well done. I usually do not like a child narrator. It's usually too twee or too clever and cutesy, and none of that existed. And that was a kind of carryover and what made me think of the Summer book. The innocence and the naivete that this character has is heartbreaking because you understand that she just doesn't get it. She doesn't. She has a different plane of understanding of what's happening. But I think what is very well done here is how much space the author and trust the author gives the reader. So we're able to put things together that this character, Amiko, would not. So glad I read it. Very lovely little book. Like I said, dark. It's dark and sad, but also very well told. And the last book I want to talk about is one that I talked to my Italian teacher about. And when I told him that I had a few books that I had bought, I think one of my travels to Europe, and I asked him which one he thought I should do first. And he by far said he didn't think that this one should be in the top of the list. And I understand why. This is something I read for Shorty September. And this is The Day of the Owl by Leonardo Sciascia. And this is translated by Archibald Colquhoun and Arthur Oliver. This is a police procedural that's set in Sicily, and it's set in right after World War II. And so there's still all of these ramifications of Mussolini and who sided with the fascists and who sided with the resistance, and that things that are talked about and the shame that's kind of carried and the accusations that are not really talked about, but still permeate through normal everyday dealings between people in Italy. The book opens with a man running for the bus, yelling for the bus to wait. And as he's running toward the bus, he's shot dead. And this is stunning. There's a lot of people in this square where this happens, as well as an entire bus full of people. And yet, when the captain comes, Captain Bellotti, he's the new commander of the Carabinieri. He is a northerner from Parma. So that's scandalous. That'll create some tension in the story. He is surprised, not surprised, to know that no one saw anything. It was as if nothing happened. And so he is tasked with having to solve this. At the same time, being told that there is no mafia, there is no situation where everything that is pointing to him that this is a stylized killing, this is a purposeful killing, orchestrated in a very specific manner for vengeance, for revenge. This is not a crime of passion. He's being told to no, ignore all that. And because he's a northerner, he's being told over and over and over again. I guess these are things that if you lived in Sicily, you would just kind of understand not to talk about. And so his being an outsider, trying to do the right thing, his belief in justice is pressing him to find the truth, even though it's going to cost him politically and his career. This was very dryly written. It's a police procedural. The writing is very sparse. It's just very matter of fact. Almost felt a little Japanese, and like the Japanese mysteries and police procedurals, a little similar and akin to that. I appreciated it for what it taught me about some of the interactions between people, especially people who didn't grow up together and don't know the story of each other's histories and past right after World War II. And it reminded me and brought to mind a lot of Natalia Ginzburg's works that pulled on these same threads and themes. So I don't know that I would recommend it. I'm glad I read it because I have an interest in Italian literature and in Italy and the Italian language. So for me, that was interesting. And I love a good police procedural. But I think you'd have to care about those niches to want to read this. I mean, it's a slim book, but even though it was slim, it was a little bit of a slog to read. So those are the books that I've read. What I have currently on dock is the original by Nell Stevens, and that is art and set in a historical context and with a main woman character who's an artist. So that hits so many of my check boxes of things that I like. So I'm hopeful about that. Then I'm listening to the audio of Flesh by David Szalay. This is on the Booker list. I gotta be honest, I don't know if I would have picked this up if it weren't for being on the Booker list. So we'll see how that one goes. Next, I'm reading House for Ms. Pauline, and this is by Diane McCaulay. I was interested in this. I think I saw something, I think it was Eric Carl Anderson had mentioned this in looking at the shortlist for the Wilbur Smith Adventure Writing Prize. And I found out this also won the Caricon Prize for Caribbean Literature for fiction for this year. So interested in that. And I know it's set in rural Jamaica with a 99-year-old female protagonist, Ms. Pauline. So interested in that. And then continuing on with Molly Keane and finishing up what we're going to complete of her oeuvre, even though she has many more books. But we're stopping with Time After Time. So finishing that up. That's it for me for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye.